Okay, welcome everyone. Okay, the recording is on. Today we are going to hold the fifth meeting of our group, and today Özgür Elçi, a PhD student of our department and an English instructor in the foreign languages department here, is going to talk about the Tamarisk Hunter by Paolo Bacigalupi. It's a very interesting short story. I haven't had the chance to completely read the whole story, but I have read like the first 5 or 6 pages, and it's started very interestingly. So I'm very curious about what Özgür Hocam will discuss today. The floor is yours, Özgür Hocam. We are listening.
Hello everyone. Can you hear me, hocam?
Yes, Özgür Hocam, yes, we can hear you. Can you hear us? Can you hear us? I think Özgür Hoca is not here. Yes, we can hear you.
There's something wrong with his internet connection.
Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yes.
Now we can.
Is it okay? Is it okay now?
It is, but Özgür
Is it better
Hocam, your voice is coming later than your picture. Is there something wrong with your internet?
I don't know. I'm just connected
Okay.
to the internet as always, but
we
I
can
don't
hear
know
you.
if there is
We
something.
can hear you.
Okay. Let me share my screen. I've prepared some slides. It may be because of my old-fashioned computer, by the way. Okay, I shared my screen with you. I hope you'll be able to see it.
We are not
Can you
seeing
see
it
it
yet.
now? No?
No, not yet.
Özgür Hocam, did you use the one? No, our camera is not met. Özgür Hocam, there is a button at the bottom row, you know, a screen with an arrow pointing upwards. This is what you should click. And then you should then choose your presentation, which should be full screen. Maybe you're doing it all right.
Yeah, I used that, hocam. Yes.
Can you try
Okay.
again? Close it perhaps and
Okay.
do it again.
Okay. I used that. I hope you'll be able to see it now. Yes. Maybe I should first turn off my camera.
Yeah, that's my help.
Something wrong with screen sharing. Try restart your browser if the problem continues. Okay, let me try again.
If it doesn't work, if you can share.
Okay, I'm trying again. Okay, hocam. I'm trying again, hocam. I hope this time.
If it doesn't work, for the last resort, you can send us the PowerPoint and we can change it for you.
Okay. You still can't see it, can you? No?
No, it's okay. It's okay now.
Now we can.
You can see it. Okay, good.
Yes.
Excellent.
But your camera is still off.
No. Can you make it full screen? Because we can see it in editing mode. Can you just make it full screen?
Okay,
Presentation
hocam. Yes, hocam. Okay, hocam. I can. Presentation mode.
We see the same thing, maybe.
Yeah, okay, now it's full screen now.
Yes, very good. Yes,
Okay,
thank you.
hocam. Okay, good. Okay, hocam, thank you very much. Okay. Yes, hello everyone. To begin with, I would like to greet all our participants. This is our 5th online meeting with the Esat Science Fiction Study Group, and I'm very happy to contribute as the initiator of this session. I have not planned my presentation as a full lecture, but rather as a brief introduction to the topic, meant to initiate further discussion. I will look briefly this is my outline. I will look at briefly at the Anthropocene idea, the human age, and then I will look at what is climate fiction, a few definitions I'll try to give. And then I will briefly look at the Tamarisk counter by Paolo Bacigalupi as my case study. The formation of American ecological thought may be traced back to the 19th century transcendentalists like Emerson and Thoreau. However, by the mid-20th century, the environmental awareness became more urgent and political. Rachel Carson's Silent Spring exposed the dangers of pesticides, and it's often seen as a turning point in modern environmentalism. Around the same period, global ecological limits were discussed in the works like The Limits to Growth. This book is not as popular as The Silent Spring, but it is of special importance, I believe, because in 1972, researchers at MIT used computer models to predict potential societal collapse if population growth, resource consumption, and population continued unchecked. In the 1990s, these intellectual and, sorry, I'm also trying to see my Word file here. Sorry. In the 1990s, these intellectual and activist traditions entered literary studies more formally through eco-criticism. Although the term was first used, the term eco-criticism was first used by William Ruckert, the field became widely recognized after the publication of the Eco-Criticism Reader in 1996, edited by Cheryl Glotfelty. Sorry. Oh, I skipped a few. Sorry. I all. I'm very sorry. Okay. Yeah. The Eco-Criticism Reader, edited by Cheryl Glotfelty, the first wave of eco-criticism mainly focused on nature writing and wilderness traditions, while the second wave expanded to include environmental justice, urban issues, post-colonial perspectives, and ecofeminism. Over time, ecological crisis, especially climate change, began to reshape literature itself. The term Sci-fi, popularized by Dan Bloom. Here we can see Dan Bloom refers to fiction that directly addresses climate change. But before we look at climate change fiction, there is a very important concept that we should know, which is Anthropocene. The Anthropocene the Anthropocene, a term coined by Paul Crutzen and Özgür Stromer in 2000, refers to the current geological era in which human activities radically influenced Earth's ecosystems and climate. These include activities such as industrialization, urbanization, deforestation, and the burning of fossil fuels, which have led to significant changes in the planet's geology, biosphere, and atmosphere. In literature, Anthropocene is often used as a framework for exploring the impact of human civilization on the natural world and the consequences of this impact for human society. Many works of fiction, poetry, and nonfiction written in this age of Anthropocene describe the effects of climate change, environmental degradation, and other consequences of human activity on the planet. These works also often critique the unsustainable practices of modern society and call for greater awareness and action on environmental issues. The new era comes with its own problems. As Nicholas Mirzov points out, no more As Nicholas Mirzov points out, no more can humans see the Anthropocene extending across centuries, through dimensions, and across time. It can only be visualized. In other words, the Anthropocene is too large and too extended for direct perception. Timothy Morton refers to these imperceptible objects as hyperobjects. They cannot be fully seen or experienced as a whole because they stretch across vast scales of time and space. Climate change is a perfect example of a hyperobject. We do not see it directly. We encounter its symptoms, fires, droughts, floods. That's what makes it so difficult and also unsettling. So a new kind of narrative was needed in literature. To address this new phenomenon, climate change. Traditional forms were not always enough to capture something as vast and complex as climate change. Science fiction writers who were already experienced in imagining alternative futures began to respond to this challenge, and a new genre gradually emerged as sci-fi or climate fiction. Here we can see on the slide Dan Bloom, who coined the term sci-fi. He's a very funny guy as well, and he has a website called Sci-Fi Report, where he gathers the latest information or the latest works about sci-fi. It would be a good option to visit if you want to learn more about sci-fi. So I would like to go on with some definitions of, so what is climate fiction? I would like to go on with some definitions of climate fiction. Science fiction and fantasy writers of America defines climate fiction as, or sci-fi, as a subgenre of science fiction that focuses on the impact of climate change on the environment and society. It often explores dystopian futures and the challenges humanity faces in adapting to a changing world. And Environmental Humanities Journal defines sci-fi as a genre of literature that portrays human-made, that is anthropogenic climate change and its global effects. It incorporates speculative fiction like sci-fi elements and addresses both the scientific and socio-political dimensions of climate change. And The Guardian is a non-literary, let's say, source, defines climate fiction as a genre of literature that imagines the future of our planet in the face of climate change. These stories often explore the social, political, and environmental impacts. And I have another definition by a well-known scholar who is an expert on, actually two scholars who are experts on who are very popular in the literary circles. Adonis Jones Putra and Axel Goodbody, they define sci-fi, climate fiction as follows in their famous work, Sci-fi A Companion. Given the absence of a precise definition, sci-fi may be best thought of as a distinctive body of cultural work, which engages with anthropogenic climate change, exploring the phenomenon not just in terms of setting, but with regard to psychological and social issues, combining fictional plots with meteorological facts, speculation on the future, and reflection on the human-nature relationship, with an open border to the wider archive of related work on whose models it sometimes draws for the depiction of climatic crisis. Quite an robust definition. But actually, as Serpil Operman says about climate fiction, she says it's like it's rhizomatic. It goes on spreading like the roots of a plant. I mean, in all directions. So it hasn't finished its evolution yet. So we can think about sci-fi as a rhizomatic body. So what is common in these definitions are, there are 4 different definitions of sci-fi, but common issues in these definitions are, so what is sci-fi is about? Anthropogenic climate change as central concern, environmental transformation, global impact, psychological, social consequences, political governance issues, and we'll be seeing some of these in our case study in the Tamarisk Hunter as well. Adaptation and survival, which is a very common topic as well. Future-oriented and speculative imagination, often dystopian scenarios, combines fictional narrative with scientific, mythological elements, reflects on human-nature relationship, engages with planetary scale and long-term temporality, open boundaries drawing from science fiction and other related genres. Okay, these are the common themes explored in, covered in climate fiction novels. But what about the science fiction side? So what are the, what do they share with science fiction, as I'm referring to sci-fi genre as a subgenre of science fiction. And by the way, some of our colleagues, some of my colleagues I know, they do not agree with the idea that climate fiction is a subgenre of science fiction anymore. They claim that climate fiction is now has reached a point where it stands out as a separate genre. So what are the common things or different things between science fiction and climate fiction works? We can say that science fiction deals with distant futures, spectacular apocalyptic endings, alien invasions, and first contact themes are usually found in science fiction movies and books. Advanced or imaginary technologies, other planets, and outer space, sudden dramatic world-changing events. These are some of the defining elements of science fiction. Maybe dear participants will contribute, will comment on that later. And on the other hand, we have climate fiction. Climate fiction deals with near futures and extended present. And the action in climate fiction works is not spectacular, but it's slow, and it's about an ongoing environmental change. And climate change as human-made, we don't have aliens or outer space bodies or spaceships, things like that. But climate change is handled as a human-made phenomenon. So resource scarcity, especially water and food energy scarcity, are common themes. and we will see that in Tamarisk Hunter as well. Everyday life under ecological stress, social inequality, and environmental justice. These are specific to, let's say, climate fiction, and they all, of course, share some. They share a specific ground as well. So both science fiction and climate fiction, they speculate about the future projection from present conditions, world building, systemic thinking, societies, ecologies, and power relations are also covered and studied. Human survival and adaptation, and ethical questions about progress. This is a saying by Fukuyama. The best part of science fiction is that it almost never comes true. I don't know if you will agree with that, but okay, let's hope for that. So let me proceed with the story. Let me proceed with the story, Tamarisk Hunter. So the Tamarisk Hunter is basically a story about water scarcity, and it's one of the 11 stories in Paolo Bacigalupi's collection, Pump 6 and Other Stories. This actually, this is the Wind Up Girl. You may know it. Was his first novel, and it's a very it's the one that made him famous, actually. Yes, let me give some brief information about the author. Paolo Bacigalupi is an American science fiction and fantasy writer. He has won several awards like the Hugo Nebula and John W. Campbell Memorial and Captain Cook Awards, and has been nominated for the National Book Award. Bacigalupi literally translates to wolf hunter. It's an Italian word. It's an interesting surname, actually, a bit hard to pronounce as well. In an interview, he said that his surname came from his Italian ancestors. He says that he is a fifth generation Italian, and he ended up with his great grandfather's name. His first novel, The Wind Up Girl, which brought him wider recognition in literary circles, is a biopunk science fiction novel set in the 23rd century Thailand. The novel explores themes such as biotechnology, gene-hacked seeds, and genetically modified crops, plagues, and bioterrorism. The 11 stories, Pump 6 and Other Stories, was published in 2008, which was actually published before his first novel. Also represents some of Paolo's best work. The collection demonstrates the power of science fiction short story, with special emphasis on social criticism, political parable, and environmental advocacy, which lie at the center of Paolo's work. Each story in the collection is like a warning and a celebration of human experience. The Tamarisk Hunter, which we will be examining here, is one of the 11 stories in Paolo Bacigalupi's collection. The 10-page short story is loaded with so many references from historical water rights issues, tribal rights, and power relations to apocalyptic futures. Okay, so Tamarisk Hunter. What is a tamarisk? Tamarisk is ılgın ağacı in Turkish. I don't know if you know it. It's also called tuzul ağaç. This is a small tree with needle-like leaves, tiny pink flowers in spring, and pretty name. Tamarisk occupies 1 million acres in the southwestern United States. Native to Europe and Asia, these small spreading trees were brought to the United States in the 1800s and prized for their delicate beauty. But there's a problem, because the tamarisk tree is a invasive species. For example, its leaf litter, you can see down the tree here, leaf litter makes the soil saltier and thus less favorable for other plants. So it's an invasive species, and that's why our hero Lolo is hunting that tree. A big tamarisk can suck 73,000 gallons of water a year. This is also taken from, this is a quote from the story. A big tamarisk can suck 73,000 gallons of river water a year. By the time, for example, this is a very striking image as well. By the time Salt River reaches downtown Phoenix, Arizona, it's a river name only. Some scientists think that why a non-native plant, the salt cedar, is thriving while native flora are suffering. So it sucks the water out of the ground and it invades the ground literally. So, as I said before, the Tamarisk Hunter is a story about water scarcity. It's a very common theme in science fiction as well. For example, these are some scenes from the Interstellar movie, and as you can see, we have a dust storm, and they have water issues as well. There isn't enough water to water the plants, so they can only grow corn, and these are some scenes from the movie Dune. I'm sure you know the movie very well. And this is also a dry planet, and there are it is so dry that the planet they live on is so dry that they have to suck the water, as you can see on the slide. I tried to share some scenes from the movie. They have to suck the water out of the dead bodies so that they can use them, and they created a pool like this to put back that water. So water scarcity and resource scarcity is a very common theme in science fiction, and as well, and that's the main theme in the Tamarisk Hunter short story as well. And on the other side, sometimes there is too much water. In The Day After Tomorrow, the New York is flooded with water, and you all remember Kevin Costner's Water World. Yes, and this time there is too much water. And again, on Interstellar, again there is too much water and ice. So when the balance is disturbed, so when the balance is disturbed, we see those kinds of scenes in science fiction movies and also in climate fiction works. In those remote or imaginary worlds, there is either too much water or too little, which takes us to the idea that what we need in our world is balance and the correct and ethical use of natural resources. Okay, if you go back to the Tamarisk Hunter, as I said before, it's a story about water scarcity. The story follows Lolo. The story follows Lolo, a man who earns his living by hunting and removing invasive tamarisk trees, which consume large amounts of groundwater. The government pays bounties for each tree he destroys, since water has become tightly controlled and rationed. Lolo's work is both ecological and economic, as he depends on these payments to survive. His world is defined by shrinking reservoirs, bureaucratic water quotas, and growing social inequality. Through Lolo's perspective, the story portrays how environmental collapse reshapes everyday life, labor, and ethical choices. So we have Lolo here, and we have his camel Maggie here, and this is the American Southwest, by the way. This is the American Southwest, by the way, and I'll come to this Maggie the camel later, because this is not a native of the American Southwest, as far as I know. So even this image shows that there is a problem. There is a problem with the natural balance in the American Southwest. Okay, in the story, Lolo works for the government, and California gets most of the water. Why does California get most of the water? It seems that California is receiving most of the water, and the guards are employed by Californian authorities to patrol the river and monitor the tamarisk hunters, who are also working for the state. Why is California receiving most of the water? This question can only be understood through the lens of power relations. Probably because wealth and power are concentrated there, much like they are today. California is currently the largest state economy in the United States, home to Silicon Valley. Yeah. California, as I said before, California is currently the largest state economy in the United States, home to Silicon Valley, Hollywood, and wealthy coastal areas like the Pacific Palisades. We all remember the Palisades fire in January 2025. If it were a country, if California was a country, it would rank among the 5 largest economies in the world. The story seems to suggest that this imbalance continues into the future, where wealthy regions remain better protected, while poorer areas such as Nevada, Arizona, and Utah bear the greater costs of water scarcity. The unequal distribution of water can be understood as a question of power. Access to water is controlled through political decisions and legal systems. In this case, water does not simply flow according to geography. It flows according to economy and political influence. California's dominance reflects broader patterns of power and inequality. So water becomes not just a natural resource, but a tool through which authority and control are exercised. Another important detail is that Lolo actually works for the government. He earns money by removing tamarisk and receives water bounty payments. So even though he appears as independent, he is part of a larger system. His survival depends on state regulations and bureaucratic approval. This reflects a clear worker-employer hierarchy and shows how environmental crisis is managed through structured social and economic control. Lolo gets paid per plant and waits for headgate to be opened. So this isn't chaos. There again we have a very organized system of control.
Özgür Hocam?
Yes, Hocam.
Okay.
I'm just
Go ahead.
looking for. I had one more paragraph to add, but I think
Okay, I
lost
just thought
it
we lost you.
in my-
That's why I wanted to
Yeah.
go on.
Okay. Thank you. Just that's the end of my presentation. Okay. Thank you very much. That would be the end of my presentation, and I would be very happy if you have any comments or. So I had another topic, for example, I was planning to talk about the military side. So we had some members of the National Guard here, for example, as you can see on the slide in the story. So one of these National Guards, Hale, is Lolo's friend. So the Hale works for the government, and he came to Lolo's house to check if he is doing okay, if he's I mean, working as the government asked him to do. And this is another theme in the story, and this is the militarization of the environment, the militarization of the let's say is another theme often found in both science fiction stories and also in sci-fi. So because we need order, and for example, in this two guys look like this is a scene from the Star Wars movie, and we all have these troops in also science fiction movies, like the ones in this Tamarisk Hunter short story. Okay, that's the end of my presentation. Thank you for listening, and this is the works cited page. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Özgür Hocam. I think your topic is very interesting, and it creates a lot of new lines of discussion that we haven't discussed before, because the scarcity of the sources and the excess, of course, of it is a subject that we are experiencing today, particularly with water, because as people who are living in Izmir, like me, it has become a daily, a hobby of us to follow how much water we have, and is it going to be, is going to arise, or is it going to be left for the next year, etc. So I think it's a very valid and urgent subject that we can discuss today. Are there anyone who wants to contribute or comment?
I just want to say something. So, like last week, Firuze Hocam, you talked about the ethics, and like we don't have like what really caused these scarcity. So we just have to deal with the outcomes of scarcity. So, like in some other climate fiction, we also don't have any open reasoning. So, and with in this, like in our world as well, so we don't know the reason too. So what exactly causes the water cuts? But we have to deal with consequences. So like I also wanted to draw a parallel between these two. So that's my comment.
I can say one thing about it, because what Özgür Hocam said just a minute before about the militarization to control the resources is a very, common subject in science fiction, like, for example, in Dune, because we see that sometimes the scarcity of something very powerful and important like water creates a new ecosystem that also creates another very, powerful and important substance, like, for example, the melange in Dune, right? So that scarcity and its results, which also might be very useful for the government and the people, should be controlled. And that creates authoritarian regimes as a result, to create the capital and the power behind it, the source. We can say oil, for example, considering the current developments in America and Venezuela, for example. So that's a very important issue, because as the regular citizens, we are not informed, or we do not know the motives and the agenda behind it. We just experience the results and the consequences, but not the, source of it, why it happens. Yeah, that's what I just thought about it now when you said it.
Yeah, actually, this militarization issue, Hocam, I think it's open to I mean, further inquiry, further maybe we can write things about it, because so everything changes, but the military is still there. Military doesn't change. We have the military. We need, I don't know why, 200 years later, 500 years later, we will still have the military. They will have the guns. They will come and check us. Okay, so this militarization issue needs to be examined, I think.
Yeah, I think it tells a lot about the human nature, right? Because we still have a need to have
almost, almost in all science fiction movies, we have some military guys. Star Wars is full of military guys and full of wars, full of conflicts, and also Dune is again based on conflicts between two groups or nations, let's say.
I think it's all about the economy, that control of resources. That's what you have. I mean, as long as there's going to be rivalry over resources, that you need to have some enforcement agency, some unit to protect yours and actually seek more to make yourself richer. So I think the military or any kind of enforcement, in some cases it might be police force, or in some cases some paramilitary. This brings to mind the Mad Max Fury Road, in which again water was kind of currency. Somebody is keeping all the water or making other people, you know, dependent on water. So this is a very interesting theme, actually. Science fiction works deal with kind of actually basically economic issues. And the story you chose is also very about biopolitics and economy, that there is a currency, there's a scarcity, that's economy. And that's why we have military, to actually regulate things or to, you know, protect the elite, whatever. And I think this brings us to a very interesting subject, which is also popular. I would like to ask your opinion about that. I think everybody is slowly drifting towards a credit system. That's people. China has already have their own credit-based economy. You know, you have credit points, social credits. And do you think in this work, in the story you chose, there is a kind of a new definition of citizenship based on some sort of currency? You are awarded or punished for your behavior, a kind of commodification of survival. That's water is, you know, we can maybe do without money, but we can't do without water. So that means actually your basic survival is commodified, and you have to do certain kind of things to get that. And this also is a new definition of citizenship. Do you agree? I mean, is there enough material in the work to support this brief hypothesis? Which is actually the form of neoliberalism.
Yes, Hocam. Yes, I would totally agree with you, because it's a matter of, I mean, the idea of citizenship here is somehow defined by the power, by your power of reaching water. I mean, if you live in California here, for example, if you're well enough, you can live in California. And actually in the story, they call these people who live outside California and who work for the government, they call them water ticks. Water ticks. You know, the little things, water ticks. They steal water. They steal a bucket of water to have something to drink that night. And other people who live in the Palisades, let's say, they have swimming pools, and they joke among themselves. Okay, the Loda asks the military guy, "Are they going to give you a mansion with a pool outside?" So your ability to access basic resources defines in some way a kind of new citizenship.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so is this Is this some sort of dystopian capitalism? Actually, it's a direct criticism of capitalism or neoliberal economy, whichever term you prefer. They more or less the same thing. It's a kind of hyper capitalism in one sense. That is, things are exaggerated.
Yes, the ultimate level.
And how about then Fukuyama, the saying? What's your take? Before I say my own version of it, why do you think Fukuyama?
Actually, Joe, I was going to say a few things about it, but actually, I left it there just to let's think about it like a sauce. I don't know if you agree with that. I actually have the book, and on one of the pages he has that word. I don't know if you agree. He says the best thing about science fiction is that it never comes true. Do you agree with that? Is that the best thing about science fiction?
It was.
Let's see if the others.
Maybe it was like that some time ago. It's not anymore.
Sorry?
Maybe it was like that. Until it wasn't.
It's becoming real day by day, isn't it? I mean, the climate change, we are seeing all the effects of it.
I've taken a note about it, and I think we can deconstruct the sentence and say that what's best about science fiction, that what comes true, you know, because we are living in it. Perhaps we can think that way.
Okay, is there anybody who would like to voice their comment on this issue, Fukuyama's quotation? Yes, Dicle, you have anything to add?
Not about Fukuyama's, but I was going to comment on the citizenship.
Okay.
In the Tamarisk counter. I read the story, and when you asked about is the credits of being the citizenship, I think it's a very commodified society because, to start with. What was the guy's name? What was his name? The Tamarisk hunter. He actually secretly
Lolo.
He actually secretly plants the seeds of tamarisk that he's supposed to get rid of. So he knows that it's a.
Why?
But
why?
He still does it because he's going to lose his job, right? If he gets rid of all the tamarisks, then he will be out of job. So he has to keep on.
He's going to cut them again and again and again.
Absolutely, and it's not only about keeping his job secure. It's also otherwise the punishment is not only losing his money. By the way, if he gets caught, he will have to work in some field, or the punishment is too heavy.
Weird.
And while I also, when I look at his relationships, first he has kind of a girlfriend or a wife, but he doesn't call her that. She's just someone to go back to, but they don't have that kind of intimacy. Or maybe he has a friend, but he's rivals with his friend because his friend is also hunting tamarisk. And then all those relationships also is reflected. They cannot keep a society, let's say. All the commodification, all this water scarcity also is reflected in their lives. That's what I was going to say.
That's a very interesting detail. I was just thinking about that, and when you pointed it became more relevant. In India, when it was a British colony, the British were complained about the number of cobra snakes because the place was full of cobras, and they wanted to get rid of them. And then said they're going to just give bounty or kind of price for every cobra that is brought, every cobra body. So the Indians, to earn money, began to bring cobras. And the cobras keep coming in. The British were paying and paying, but they just did not stop. And after a year, they just realized that the Indians in the rural sides have built cobra breeding farms. That is, they are grazing cobras, thousands, and then the numbers are keeping. And the British saw that there is no end to that. They keep buying cobras, but they are not depleted. And then they stop paying for it, and suddenly those cobra breeding farms became unemployed and just let all the cobras they have loose. And now there's a boom in cobras. So that's a very good metaphor for trying to regulate the free market, that you incentivize something and then you create an opposite effect. I think he was cheating. Okay, that's a very good question. Is the central character, the protagonist, a hero or a villain?
It's just a guy, I guess.
He's a
Oh.
See, he's trying to survive he's trying to survive in an unjust economy, kind of trying to cheat the way everybody's cheating. Okay, that's a very good.
And he received $500 at the end, and he was a bit confused, and he said, "Okay, better than nothing." So I'll do whatever I can after that. And he lost his job. Of course, the government is not going to pay any more money for that tamarisks, because they decided that they don't need they have enough water now, and they are going to cover the river by a tube, so they are going to prevent evaporation, and so they will have enough water, so they don't need any more tamarisk hunters. And he lost his job.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, he's a hustler, I guess, right? Like he's trying to survive in a community which he didn't create.
Okay. Back to Fukuyama. I think Fukuyama is both right and wrong. He is right in the sense that, if you remember Ursula Le Guin's statement that science fiction actually is not predictive. It's, descriptive. That is actually, you're not actually talking about future. You're talking about some present case, multiply it, put it into a future scenario, and if things go like that, then okay, so you're not, I think until 1930s, Jules Verne, or these times, it was more predictive, but after that, it's more like a warning. And it's not supposed to be, actually, turn right. But actually, somebody can put a counter argument. No, just like in Blade Runner, the opening scene of Blade Runner, the future Los Angeles, 2019, is totally toxic city. It didn't come true. So you can't just look at say they couldn't predict it right. No, because we took the measures. Because of science fiction, it didn't happen. Because in these films were made in the 80s. Everybody was worried about the depletion of resources, the population boom, these kind of things, and it didn't go. So actually, science fiction made a warning, and people just change, or governments change their behavior. That's why it's not supposed to be predictive. And this brings me to my last question. Do you think this whole story is a warning or some sort of fatalism that unfortunately we are heading for disaster, or is a kind of warning unless we do something? What is the author's last stance? Any idea?
Hocam, it might be both, because now you're saying we haven't seen LA like that. I was just thinking not yet, because we still have days to live, and it might happen one day. So, and we can say that, okay, SF saw that coming. So yeah, maybe it's a warning, because we are already experiencing that kind of water resources, lack of it, and there are a lot of con men around us who just wants to cheat the system with that. So I'm not sure, really. I cannot choose.
Yeah, but we can already now say 20 years later, our children, your children, will be saying, "Hey, you people who lived in 2020s, you always talk about climate, global warming. See, it didn't happen. So you were just, it turned out to be, your theories turned out to be fake. But maybe they didn't turn out to be real because we took measures. Now we're switching to electric cars. We're just taking, that's why these are happening. That's why we have these stories, so that it doesn't happen." So he is both right and wrong.
Well, yes, we are taking the measures, and that's very great. But sometimes I'm, how can I, put that in words? I'm very worried that we, as the regular citizens, are taking the measures. Not everyone is doing that. Not everyone that should be doing it is doing that. So I'm a bit pessimist, you know. I'm not that
No, I'm
optimistic about
pessimist
the
too.
future. So
I just, in our university, we have this very elaborately developed, trash management system in theory. That is, everything is well regulated, and I saw them. They end up in some car park, dividers, and
They all go to the same place.
they just dumped the whole thing into the same truck and just told them, hey, what are you doing? People are just categorizing it, just dumping it in the same truck. They said nobody cares, and
It's a lie around the world. Actually, nobody does that. Recycling is a scam.
well, maybe English are doing
maybe
it.
Germans only.
Yeah,
No,
Germans and English maybe.
theirs is a scam because I saw it like a scientific documentary about where it goes and how companies use our, the behavior towards goodness so that they could create even more plastic.
Yeah, I mean, I've been collecting hundreds of batteries myself. I never just throw them into the trash and to find real
Yeah.
place. So I couldn't find this collective box, and I just saw it bin. And I just went to, hey, you have a battery box, so I can bring my batteries. And she said, no, we just collect them and dump them into the trash. So what of
Yes, I
Oh,
agree.
sorry.
I agree with Dicle Hocam, and I read about some critics who claim that presenting this climate change issue or environmental issues as something personal is not true. I mean, it's not a personal issue. I mean, you cannot, as an individual, your power is so limited. Yes, so limited.
Yes.
Think
It's-
about a factory.
one single factory can just make
Yes.
more damage than the whole world combined.
Absolutely, they are making us feel bad about ourselves.
Yeah,
But then
and sometimes good about, and sometimes they're
Mm.
trying to make us maybe good about. Let's
It's
feel good
marketing.
about ourselves.
It's
Okay,
marketing.
It's classic.
I'm
Marketing.
separating all the trash, papers here,
Yeah.
and
You're saying,
glass here.
You're a good
Yes.
person. It's the illusion.
Yeah,
Capitalism sells all the time.
Let's-
It gives you
now
the illusion of
let's-
good people being a good person.
Change your car.
Yeah.
Why? What's wrong with that? Now, aren't you now? You're going to buy a new car, gasoline. You feel bad. Oh my God, I need to buy an electric. So that means that all the damn batteries are going to be produced in China. They are more damaging to the environment. But you feel good because your gas consumption goes down, but it's just replaced. Now all these windmills that we keep seeing, especially in Europe and Turkey, all these wind power plants, they're also very inefficient, and I think within 10 years they'll also be removed. It turns out to be it's just eye candy.
I was going to ask one more pessimistic issue to Fukuyama, okay? Because he said that, like, we said that science fiction works like warn people so that they will have better measurements, or they will regulate. Well, it didn't happen with the AI companies because all of them, I am sure, read Neuromancer. And Neuromancer, like in that, there's also an AI which tries to unite with another AI in another company so that they can become one, and like we don't know what happens next. And today's CEOs of those tech companies are so excited about what happens next, and they're actually trying to reach that. So they're doing the opposite.
Dicle Hocam, there's another interesting fact. While they are not caring about what's next and what harms it might bring, the AI is also using a lot of water
Yes,
than
actually.
combined, all of us. So it's a double menace.
They say it's
perhaps I
cooling.
can say.
It's cooling. For cooling purposes, it doesn't damage water, whatever. But it uses a lot of electricity. Okay. Anybody else? As you see, you can start with a very simple single title and just go all the way to last time we talked about, child abuse and etc. This time all. Okay.
And it is still discussed if climate fiction is doing any any good for the, I mean, environmental awareness. So why are they writing those books? And who are reading those books is another question. Who are reading those books? It's sometimes I'm studying, I'm preparing my PhD thesis on Sci-fi, and sometimes I feel like people who are already who already have an awareness of environment.
Yeah, that's the point.
Are reading those books.
Yeah, you talk
they
about
already have the awareness. Yeah,
this is the same for feminism.
Yeah, you're preaching to the believers. It's something like that.
Yeah, you're telling upper class girls how to be free. They're already free, and all the
We have street feminists.
no, it's the same with science fiction. I think science fiction is also heavily commodified and turned into commercial thing. That okay, my next book will be a sci-fi in which a gay couple trying to. One of them is black. One of them is black. The other one is Asian. Okay, so you can have a lot of this. Whatever
Netflix
sells,
likes it.
whatever sells it. Netflix will be interested in.
Of course.
Let them have a robot maid as well.
Yeah, and it's going to be non-binary robot. Okay, so as you see, sometimes I feel a bit disillusioned about the science fiction's losing its own innocence and it's becoming a commodity. Okay, in the past it was childish, adolescent, but it was honest. Now it is more mature, but it's free market that it is a commodity. And on the one hand, there are very good work, but on the other hand, I myself feel very ambivalent about this thing that I love. How honest these people are. How can I? But that's why I'm asking the Bacigalupi whether you find him an honest person or is he just kind of selling another thing, using the keywords. It's a very, very difficult thing to talk about. I have this feeling of mistrust or distrust, which I mean, lack of trust. I don't believe in things anymore, that somebody is trying to sell me something again. I can only trust something if it's not a commodity. If the books were free. So, okay. So that's my take.
It's a very good question. If he's honest or if he's just faking his way through the. I mean, I haven't deepened my readings on Bacigalupi yet. I have only read about one or two of his works, but I don't know. There may be a formula. If I don't know, I'm not aware of any formula they are using. I mean, if you do this and do that, it's going to be a good sci-fi fiction and it's going to sell. I'm not aware of that kind of approach yet, but maybe at the end of my, studies, maybe if I come up with something like that, that would be a surprise for me as well.
Yeah, maybe that's the nature of genre. If something has become a genre, it's a collection of qualities which are actually, make it easier to detect and market. That's what Western was, what crime, what film noir was. So somebody makes a formula, finds a formula, it sells, the others just take it and it becomes
like a Serdar Ortaç song, hocam. Like a Serdar Ortaç song, it has a formula.
Yeah, that's it. How many notes do you have anyway? 7 notes. You can make a piece. Yes, Firuze, you were saying something. I think.
You just actually, summarized what I wanted to say, because when you see something published, I have the lack of distrust as well, because it's published, probably it has these formulas and keywords. It's not that honest, publishing world anymore, because there's a lot of monopoly is going on in that publishing world as well. So if it's published, it probably is already dishonest about its claims, not just literature, but all popular culture and its products.
Maybe we can just as an idea. Maybe we can dedicate one session for writing science fiction and publishing it. If we can find somebody I have an idea of that because I talked to a guy who was a publisher, and he's a science fiction fan. He lives in Cyprus, and he told me that today, as a Turk, even if you have a very, very original idea, if you're a non-Anglo, even a European, you have almost zero chance of, reaching success. Science fiction is an Anglo genre, and they don't allow anybody, and even Dutch people, people who are from Netherlands, they want to make their work sell or just get into them. They use Anglo names, Anglicanize their names, because science fiction has become a closed club as a market. It's very difficult to get in unless you pretend to be one of them. That was a very interesting claim and kind of disillusioning. So if you have any idea of writing science fiction, Turkish, English, or becoming successful, unless you're really, really, really unique, trying to get into that, the publishing world doesn't allow you.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that and believe in it, because you have to fake it perhaps until you make it. The aliases and fake names might come, might be handy at this point if you have a good, manuscript at hand.
So it's just like a Hollywood. It's a closed club, right? You close it just like a maybe large system to keep science fiction as a kind of rock and roll.
If someone can penetrate into that, the market would see that, yes, the Turkish people, for example, we have a market in there. We can sell, and then there would be a bloom in, Turkish science fiction or, other nations. Perhaps.
I don't know. Maybe. So it's a very difficult thing.
Japanese writers, right? With Japanese writers, that happened, I guess.
I think only you have to be Russian or Soviet before. Now you don't have that. Europeans, I think now we have to be Japanese, Chinese, Korean, whatever. But still, you just whatever you do, they have to steal you. Then, if you think that you are marketable, then they have to take them among them. So there is no way. Just like a Stanislav Lem, living in your country, writing works, and gaining recognition as a Polish person, even writing in English. That's unique, and very few people. That's why we have very few people. And I did once dedicate 1 year, 1 semester, to non-Anglo science fiction. And there are very beautiful works, but you don't hear them unless you search for them.
Well, there was a show on Netflix, Three-Body Problem. It was written by...
Yeah, but that's what I say. That's Anglicanized. They just stole it.
It was Anglican. Yeah, the whole team was actually...
It's rare. It's rare. And the reason why he was incorporated is that he is anti-Chinese. Again, anti-communist. So that's why maybe he's in line with American logic. So that's why maybe they liked him. But he's very interesting. Three-Body Problem, the segment that it's a very interesting thing. Let me say a couple of sentences about that. That book was reordered in China. The chapters are reorganized. If you read it in China, it makes a difference. So it's not as anti-Chinese, but if you somehow reorganize it, remove a few things, it's a different book. So the international version and Chinese version are different.
Interesting.
Okay. People admire us. If you just look at our Assad newsletter and our prevalence there, and also those who are not joining us, say that we can't catch up with you. What are you doing? People, the 5th be done before a year ends. So you've started and just high on steam. So people are actually envious. Now, I'm not saying that there's the other study groups or there's only one. They are not at the same level, but people somehow admire. This is what we intended, and this is what is happening. Science fiction study and discussion group. So thank you very much. So we received. I just wanted to share that we received very good comments, despite the fact that they can't join us. They are amazed at the seriousness and the frequency of our and insistence of our performance. So they always congratulate us. We had a meeting yesterday, Assad General, and they said, that's great. Yeah. So we had a whole page of, and also we have to make things smaller, because if we really wanted to do this, we could just have a 2-page on whole newsletter, our actions. So thank you very much for this dedication.
Sci-fi fan.
It's a very, you know, I'm still on the same page about it, because it's not very common that people who love science fiction, study science fiction, read science fiction, come together all the time. I don't know about you, but I don't have that many people around me, you know, daily, that I can discuss science fiction or just listen, you know, what you think about it, you know, like we discussed. So I really enjoy our time here,
Yes.
and I look forward to it, even though I couldn't read, for example, today's short story and the whole thing, but I really enjoy it, and I'm just going to say, hani yaptıklarımız yapacaklarımızın teminatıdır. So I'm just hoping that we will continue with, you know, great subjects on the next semester, and perhaps other, you know, works around this group.
We can have a nice poster of you, Firuze, standing like an AKP Belediye Başkanı, science fiction gönül işi.
Adaylığımı koyuyorum hocam. I'm going to be the candidate for that.
Okay.
Oylarınıza talibim.
Okay. We have other plans for you before that.
Really? Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anybody who would like to, you know, say anything or add anything?
Thank you.
I think we are done for today. It seems like that.
Okay. So maybe you want to wrap it up, Firuze?
Okay. Thank you all for joining. It has been very, again, useful. We have learned and discussed new subjects, and hopefully we will on the next meetings like this one. Özgür hocam, thank you. Because you have introduced us to the world of Bacigalupi. We always hear the name, but perhaps haven't read one of his works before. So that was also something new. Thank you, and hope to see you on our next presentation meeting.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for joining, and thank you very much for your beautiful comments. Okay, hope to see you.
Okay.
Bye.
See you all later, hopefully.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay. You